Okay, we're back. We just had a technical issue, but I've solved it. So we are back once again. So just please bear with us for the earnings. Archer Aviation plus Phunware earnings. We're doing double earnings tonight. We had a technical issue, but I'm in the process of solving it. So we're just about there. Please stand by. Everything is working out. We're nearly there. We just had a slight technical issue. But I'm working my way through it. But I am going live straight away just to get you back with me as quick as possible. You won't miss the earnings. It hasn't started yet. So just please bear with me. We're nearly there. Okay, we're good there now. You've got me on the extra channel. We're about to go live on the main channel as well. So please stand by. It's all looking good. I tried to do too much in one go. That was the problem. It was just a little bit too much. There we go. That's Archer Aviation. Phunware on the main channel. That's about to start now. I can actually start it even though I'm not completely ready. I'm going to start it anyway. Let's bring this up here. Phunware. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Martyn Lucas Investor. Sorry about that. We had to restart the stream and create all new ones. But the good thing is when you recreate a show, you are just duplicating, so it doesn't take quite as long the second time round. So everybody on the extra channel, you are watching Archer Aviation. Hasn't started yet. The earnings doesn't start Phunware doesn't start for another 10 minutes. So we're good there. And Archer Aviation doesn't start for another 40 minutes, just over half an hour. So wherever you are in the right place, and everything is fine. You're not going to miss anything. We are all good. So stand by, everybody. We're all fine. I had to restart. The reason why I had to restart was because I tried to edit the FOMC report, which is what I wanted to get that out. But unfortunately, that was just too much to be able to stream everywhere, all the channels, all the everything, all the screens. It was just a little bit too much, so it threw things off a little bit, and I had to reset everything. But we are in the right place. It's a bit frustrating, but it is what it is. But we are back, and there won't be an issue now because I'm not going to do that again. All right, so we're all good. Let me just go through a few things and make sure that I've got everything in place. Would be good. So let me just tidy up my studio a little bit. Okay, just making sure everything is running properly. We are way ahead of schedule, so don't worry, you're not going to miss anything at all. I'm just tidying up all the streams and making sure I've got all the different things working as they should do before the call starts, because then, of course, it's all too late. Okay. Everything is fine. Now, if you're on the extra channel, you are watching the Archer Aviation. That will start in a half an hour. Phunware on the main channel. Both of these channels can be found on the homepage of each channel. We are doing Phunware. So that's what's going on right now. So we are about to start. Just please bear with me. All I'm doing is tidying up the studio, making sure everything is back to normal once again. I don't know why it's saying that. That's a bit silly. What's all that about? Why is it saying that? Switch account. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. This is all just admin I'm doing now to try to give myself as much control over the stream as possible. There we go. That's all good. Everything is as it should be now. Okay. Let me test my Members button. Yeah, that's all working fine.
Kevin has become a member. This is a test YouTube membership.
That's just a test. Just please bear with me as I reset everything. But we are ahead of schedule. This is what happens when I try and do too much. A member asked me to do something, and this is why I didn't say yes straight away, because I knew there was issues with things I had to do. But I tried, and I pulled it off. But I just did a little bit too much, thinking I could do everything, and you can't. Essentially. Let me check the audio coming through. Yes, that's coming through.
It's because we're not taking.
Let me turn it up a little bit. Kathy Wood talking rubbish again. I can't stand that woman anymore. I've never known anyone's be so much about herself. She will say anything at all to promote herself.
Why we're doing this.
I think it's really awful, but there you go. That's just my opinion. You might disagree with that, and that's fine. But yeah, not impressed. Okay. Phunware is tanking at the moment. This is a stock that we are covering. On the extra channel, we'll be covering ACHR, making sure that's running. ACHR starts in half an hour. There you go. Right, we're all set. Just a couple of little tabs. I'm just going through a couple of little tabs to make sure everything is all buffered in nicely before we start. We've got 5 minutes before Phunware begins. Now, you will hear the audio over on the extra channel, but when your earnings starts, which is Archer Aviation, I will mute it and go over to the audio. So you'll hear it switch over. So you can just stand by for that. Don't worry about that. It'll just be a bit odd for a while. Well, not odd, but you know what I mean. It'll all make sense. It'll all come out in the wash. That's what I meant to say. Right, now, Phunware, I should have a feed. Yes, I do. And there is the audio coming through. Right, there we go. So we have the Phunware audio. There's just audio on this at the moment, nothing else coming through. So I've got that. That starts in 4 minutes. So we're all good there. Make sure we are good there. Okay, so when Phunware's broadcast begins, you will hear it on the extra channel, but when yours starts, which is in about 30 minutes, I will mute this one and start yours. So stand by. What you're hearing now, that was the audio for Phunware. I'm just about to start the call with them. Okay. Let me go and check my screens at the back of the studio. Okay, we are all fully restored. We are all clean, back up and running again. So we are all set. So if you're watching over on Archer Aviation, I can see has just popped up. They probably just reported their earnings. Let me have a look. I can tell you what it is. Archer Aviation has just popped up. Let's have a look. That starts in half an hour. I haven't got the figures yet, but you can see how the chart has gone up. Phunware is down big today, down 12.6. I'm not surprised because we said after the Trump election it would all sell off because there's no value, of course. It's just a Trump trade. The time to sell that was as he was leading up to being winning the election, not afterwards. Okay, so I think we're good. We're about to start. Let me check the audio for Phunware. This is it. Yep, coming in nicely. And we'll be able to bring that to you in a moment. Okay, so how many people we got with us? Make sure we got everybody with us. Okay. We've got 2 minutes to go. Content, video. It was a great shame. I ended up losing the feed, but there it is. Unfortunately, these things happen. From the previous. Just trying to fix the links. We've got 2 minutes yet before it starts, so I'm just fixing the links a little bit from the previous promotion videos, which I got all those videos done, and in the end, they're not pointing to the right places anymore. But these things happen, right? Not much I can do about that. It's my own mistake. I tried to do too much. I find it impossible to say no. That's my problem. Right. Here we go. We got 30 seconds to go. Expect it to be 1 or 2 minutes late. Here on the main channel, we are covering Phunware. On the extra channel, we are covering Archer Aviation. Archer Aviation starts in 30 minutes. I will mute Phunware when Archer Aviation starts. So don't worry about how it's all going to play out. It'll all work out fine when we get there. Just please bear with me. It'll be fine. So we're just waiting for Phunware to begin. Give it a few moments. Let's listen in. Okay, we're still playing audio. The background music. As soon as they start, I will, of course, enable the audio from them. We're just waiting at the moment. Just stand by, please. Rivian just popped up on its earnings. What did it do? It missed on earnings again. God. Missed on earnings and it popped up. I think they were expecting a bigger loss. Right, we're still getting background music on our Phunware. Just bear with me. I'll have it shortly. They're just playing background music at this moment. Okay, they're still doing that. 1 or 2 minutes late is quite typical of how these things go, so please stand by. Don't worry about that. Let me listen in again.
Afternoon and welcome to the
go.
Phunware third quarter 2024 earnings conference call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. If you need assistance, please signal a conference specialist by pressing the star key followed by 0. After today's presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. To ask a question, you may press star, then 1 on your telephone keypad. If you wish to withdraw your question, please press star, then 2. Participants in this call are advised that the audio of this conference call will be broadcast live over the internet and is also being recorded for playback purposes. A webcast replay of the call will be available approximately 1 hour after the end of the call through November 7th, 2025. I would now like to turn the call over to Brooks Hamilton of MC Group, the company's investor relations firm. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, operator. Good afternoon, and thank you for participating in today's conference call. Earlier this afternoon, the company released its financial results for the quarter ended September 30, 2024. A copy of that press release can be found on the company's website at www.phunware.com by selecting Investors under the About tab from the corporate homepage. I further encourage you to visit investors.phunware.com to access not only the earnings press release, but also the current investor presentation, SEC filings, Phunware's recently released letter to shareholders, and additional information on Phunware. Joining me on today's earnings call from Phunware's management team are Stephen Chen, Interim Chief Executive Officer, and Troy Reisner, Chief Financial Officer. During this call, management will be making forward-looking statements, including statements that address Phunware's expectations for future performance or operational results. Forward-looking statements involve risks and other factors that may cause actual results to differ materially from those statements. For more information about these risks, please refer to the risk factors described in Phunware's most recently filed annual report on Form 10-K and subsequent periodic reports filed by Phunware with the SEC and Phunware's press release that accompanies this call, particularly the cautionary statements in it. Additionally, the matters being discussed today may include non-GAAP financial measures. Reconciliation of GAAP to non-GAAP financial information is set forth in the earnings press release. The content of this call contains time-sensitive information that is accurate only as of today, November 7th, 2024. Except as required by law, Phunware disclaims any obligation to publicly update or revise any information provided on this call to reflect events or circumstances that occur after this call. It is now my pleasure to turn the call over to Phunware's interim CEO, Stephen Chen. Stephen?
Thank you, everyone, for joining today's earnings call. I'm Stephen Chen, and I am excited to update you on Phunware's progress. We're rooted in our legacy as a pioneer in mobile technology and our commitment to becoming a leader in the mobile plus AI solutions space. As we communicated in our recent shareholder letter, Phunware's mission is to leverage mobile devices as a foundation for AI-driven personalized engagement that allows businesses to connect more effectively with their customers, partners, and employees.
On the extra channel standby,
Phunware's
Archer earnings is 20 minutes away.
Uniquely positions us for an era where mobile technology and AI converge. From the beginning, Phunware was among the first to recognize the transformative power of mobile devices as a primary way people interact with technology and with one another. This foundation allows us to now deliver generative AI directly into users' hands, creating experiences that are highly personalized, relevant, and impactful. This legacy is more than history. It's also the springboard for our next chapter. As we step into the era of AI, we see mobile plus AI as the future standard for all enterprise engagements. By merging our strengths in mobile with generative AI, we are committed to turning mobile devices into dynamic, context-aware tools that offer unique insights and highly customized experiences tailored to each user's needs. Mobile devices remain one of the most accessible, universal technologies globally, making them the ideal platform for our AI solutions. By combining mobile and AI, we're enabling businesses to create entirely new opportunities for meaningful engagement, transforming devices into highly adaptable, real-time tools for connecting with customers and employees. Our vision spans both consumer-facing applications and internal employee productivity tools. For consumers, we're building personalized, context-aware experiences that elevate engagement, service, and satisfaction. For internal use, we're designing AI-enhanced productivity tools that streamline workflows, improve decision-making, and boost operational efficiency. This dual approach empowers enterprises to harness AI to enhance customer engagement while optimizing internal productivity. Our next-generation AI-driven SaaS platform, anticipated to launch in mid-2025, is designed to democratize mobile app creation by allowing companies of all sizes to create, build, and deploy custom mobile apps quickly and affordably. This platform is rooted in our understanding that modern businesses need fast, scalable AI solutions that reduce both the cost and complexity of mobile app development, giving them the flexibility to design high-quality apps that respond directly to user preferences. Phunware's extensive experiences working with Fortune 500 companies has given us a robust understanding of what it takes to deploy technology at scale. This expertise allows us to create modular, rapidly deployable AI solutions that can adapt to a wide range of industry needs, from retail and healthcare to advocacy and large-scale enterprise applications. We are where our customers need us to be and allow for a quick mobile plus AI deployment for specific use cases or a comprehensive cross-departmental AI integration, and we're built to scale. This gives our customers a unique advantage to adopt AI incrementally while leveraging our infrastructure to scale their operations seamlessly. Let's talk about some of the specifics. Through our relationship with MyCanvas, we're actively exploring AI-powered solutions to transform civic engagement, leveraging Phunware's expertise in mobile and AI. This partnership enables us to deliver a next-generation platform that combines mobile engagement with advanced AI capabilities tailored for both federal and local applications and powered by localized LLMs. Our vision is to go beyond traditional voter outreach, equipping advocacy groups, nonprofits, and public agencies with tools for broader civic participation and engagement. We can provide nuanced,
on the extra channel, Archer Aviation starts in 20 minutes. Stand by.
And we allow organizations and governments to have tools that deliver precise data-informed strategies and help them connect more effectively with diverse communities. This is a real-time optimized outreach approach based on hyper-local data and allows us to have community-relevant messaging. We hope to set a new standard in civic engagement. Phunware's investment in infrastructure has positioned us to capture strong demand in the market for AI-driven solutions. We have a focus on scalable, modular frameworks that integrate with existing platforms, giving our partners a foundation for sustainable growth. We can support high-value customer engagements across a myriad of industries and fuel momentum in both bookings and sales. Phunware remains debt-free. We have adequate resources to support our continued investment in AI, sales, and engineering. We have financial stability that allows us to pursue a growth strategy judiciously, while also ensuring we deliver long-term value to stockholders. Our commitment to fiscal responsibility is demonstrated in our efficient use of capital and in our balanced investment in strategic areas that align with our vision. We have a robust level of liquidity and allows us to support operational flexibility and resilience, and will allow us to respond effectively to emerging opportunities and address challenges while allowing us to have sustained stability and growth. Phunware's vision, leading a $500 billion generative AI market. Phunware's foundational work in mobile technology is now propelling us into the rapidly expanding generative AI marketplace. We see our roles as an AI integration engine that provides scalable, adaptable solutions to enterprises looking to enhance their mobile platforms with personalized AI. By driving engagement, operational efficiency, and long-term growth, we believe Phunware is exceptionally well-positioned to redefine how businesses and governments engage with customers, citizens, and employees in the AI era. Phunware's journey from a mobile pioneer to a leader in mobile plus AI represents an exciting evolution. And with our recent changes, including the search for a new CFO, underscores our commitment to aligning our team with this strategic direction. This leadership adjustment is part of a broader effort to strengthen our alignment across all levels, ensuring we can fully leverage our foundation in mobile engagement while advancing our AI-driven initiatives. We're actively seeking individuals who can provide fresh perspectives and guide us towards achieving this vision with precision and agility. Thank you, and now I'll turn over the call to Troy to discuss our financial performance.
Thank you, Stephen, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our review of Phunware's third quarter 2024 financial performance. As we move through our results, I'll be discussing GAAP financial measures unless otherwise specifically noted. Our press release, 8K, and website provide a reconciliation of all GAAP to non-GAAP financial results. As a reminder, our previous business, Light Technologies, is reflected in our financials as a discontinued operation in accordance with GAAP. The financial information I'm about to share is solely focused on our continuing operations, and with that said, let's take a look at the numbers. Year-to-date software subscriptions and service bookings, which represent executed contracts and future revenue, for the 9 months ended September 30th were approximately $2.2 million in 2024, as compared to approximately $600,000 in 2023, nearly a 300% increase. Net revenues for the third quarter of 2024 totaled approximately $665,000 compared to approximately $1.3 million in the third quarter of 2023, with 2023 net revenue benefiting nearly $300,000 from a contract breakage fee. Net revenues for the 9 months ended September 30th were approximately $2.6 million in 2024 as compared to $3.9 million in 2023. Gross margin for the 9 months ended September 30th was approximately 51% in 2024 as compared to approximately 32% in 2023.
Stand by on
Excluding
Extra
non-cash
Channel,
stock-based
15 minutes
compensation,
away
gross margin was approximately 56% in
from
2024
Archer
as compared
Aviation
to approximately
Earnings.
43%
You are
for the
listening to the
comparable
main
period
channel.
in
Thank you.
2023. Total operating expense was approximately $3.5 million for the third quarter of 2024 versus approximately $4.9 million for Q3 2023, which excludes $9 million of goodwill impairment expense in Q3 2023. Excluding the 2023 goodwill impairment, our operating costs decreased approximately 28% period over period. On a year-to-date comparison, excluding the goodwill impairment, our operating expenses decreased approximately 44% in 2024 as compared to 2023. Non-GAAP adjusted EBITDA loss was approximately $2.9 million in the third quarter of 2024, compared to a loss of approximately $3.3 million for the third quarter of 2023. Year-to-date, our non-GAAP adjusted EBITDA loss was approximately $7.3 million versus approximately $13 million for the comparable period in 2023. Net loss from continuing operations for the third quarter of 2024 was approximately $2.8 million, or 25 cents per share, compared to a net loss from continuing operations of approximately $13.7 million, or $5.72 per share for the third quarter of 2023, which reflects a 96% improvement. The weighted average shares used to calculate earnings per share was approximately 11.1 million versus approximately 2.4 million in the third quarter of 2023, which does reflect the reverse stock split effectuated in February 2024. Moving to the balance sheet, we closed the quarter of 2024 with approximately $35.6 million in cash and no debt. During the third quarter of 2024, our cash increased as a result of utilizing the at-the-market equity program, having sold approximately 2.9 million shares of common stock, which raised gross proceeds of approximately $16.8 million before commissions and fees. Subsequent to the end of the third quarter, we have continued to periodically utilize our ATM equity program, selling additional shares of approximately 8 million, which raised gross proceeds of approximately $79.8 million through November 5th, 2024. Phunware has approximately $70 million of capacity remaining under our existing ATM program. As a result of all that, as of November 6th, we have approximately $110 million of cash and cash equivalents on hand. The utilization of our ATM equity program has significantly boosted Phunware's cash reserves and fortified our balance sheet. With that, we'd like to turn the call back over to the operator so that we can begin the question and answer session. Please go ahead, operator.
Thank you. At this time, we will be conducting
Please
our
tap
question
the
and
like
answer
button
session.
and consider subscribing to my channel.
As a
It really,
reminder,
really
if you would
helps.
like to ask a question,
We are doing
please press star
Phunware
one
here,
on your telephone
and on the
keypad.
Archer channel, we're doing
We do
Archer
ask that
Aviation.
for speakers for people
Archer
using speaker
Aviation
equipment, it
starts
may be
in
necessary
12
to pick
minutes
up your
time,
handset before pressing
at
the
which
star
point
key.
we will mute the channel
One
here
moment,
on the
please,
main
while
channel.
we poll for
Stand by.
questions.
If you could tap the
Thank
like
you.
button on both, it would
Our
really,
first
really help.
question is coming
Thank
from
you.
Darren Aspahi with Rock Capital. Your line is live.
Hey, this is Dylan for Darren. Thanks for taking my questions. First, regarding some of your plans around your SaaS platform that you're set to launch sort of mid next year, can you talk about some of your goals with that? And then, do you have some of the resources that you need to get there, such as staff or technology, or like how are you looking at investing in that in order to get from where you're at today to the platform that you envision when you're launching that?
Yeah, this is Steve Chen. I'm happy to take that call. Thanks for that call. Thanks for that question. It is actually not as much of a shift as what we've traditionally done already. Phunware has been around for 19 years in the mobile space, and what we've historically done is when customers would like to have a mobile app, we can spin it up in a matter of days, sometimes a matter of hours. Typically, the limiting reagent is actually the Apple Store, the Google Store. We've accelerated that process now even further. On the back end, historically, our engineers have been pulling together, different modules to create the app. All we're doing now with our platform is adding a field to the very front end of it, so that you can put in the desired app you like to create. And we're currently in the process of automating everything on the back end. To answer your question, yes, we're best in class. We've done it for among some of the biggest companies in the U.S. on the Fortune 500. So we absolutely do have the tools to do that. We're focused also on it's actually kind of the opposite. We understand that we currently have a burn, and we're looking at ways that we can be more cost effective and be mindful of shareholder dollars. Thank you.
Great. And as a follow-up, with the balance sheet now, how do you think about growth sort of organically with some of the things you're working on, and also inorganically? And then what sort of, if it is through acquisition, what sort of companies would you be looking for?
Yeah, we want to be judicious in the way that we're looking at this. I think that from a organic growth process, we're looking at opportunities that will allow us to scale the SaaS platform. With most of these SaaS platforms, we're still testing out the price point, but it would take a lot of volume for us to reach the kind of volumes of revenues that we're looking for. So while we're focused on automating that process and building out a sales automation approach, that's what we'll be pursuing. Above and beyond that, we have a desire to lean on our history, both as a public company, now with a very strong balance sheet, with audited financials and a highly professional team. We think we can take a meaningful approach towards engaging with enterprises as well as federal governments, and helping them apply AI tools. And specifically within that approach, there's many very powerful LLMs out there that folks are very aware of. However, with both enterprise as well as with governmental contracts, one would need to have a localized solution that is easy to audit, that is easy to secure, where you could tie back every data input. And should things go awry, one would need to be able to tie it back to the exact line of code. I think that because we have that focus on it, and because we have such a long history of building enterprise, apps, for example, our old history with 21st Century Fox, where we were streaming content all around the world, we have a tool that is built to scale. We'd like to use that historical legacy and use some of the balance sheet dollars that we now have to build out teams that can help us engage and go solicit some of these enterprise as well as federal type contracts. In terms of an M&A approach, what you'll come to find is that our team is highly metric based and highly rubric based. Internally, what we've done is, without going into too much detail, we have a diligence checklist and rubric, which talks about, I'll give you sort of the highlights to help you understand. We're looking at a market analysis. On a scale from 1 to 5, does it help us, position, be in a stronger position for AI, federal contracting, as well as for enterprise? From a financial assessment, look at how strong they are in terms of revenue growth or stability. Profitability margin is important to us. We're not interested in accelerating cash burn of any capacity. And we're really interested in products that are in the ticket size of somewhere between $1 million to $10 million. Any of the smaller, more traditional SaaS products, while are interesting and we can do quite easily now, simply don't have the ability to move the revenue dollars in the speed and velocity we'd like it to. We look at things like operational fit. Does it fit with what we're doing already? We're standardizing a lot of our processes internally. We bought an external party to evaluate if we're using best practices.
Stand by on extra. 5 minutes to go for Archer Aviation earnings.
As well as scalability. If we can't scale, it becomes very unattractive to us. From a technology evaluation, we're looking at the tech stack. What are the integrations, and how can we use whatever they're building into what our existing infrastructure is. If it doesn't fit within our modular app ecosystem, it becomes very hard because we spent 2 decades building it. No matter how powerful it is, it'd probably make more sense just to build it for ourselves internally. In terms of a synergy assessment, we're very much focused on cross-selling opportunities. If it's a consultancy, if they're currently selling to federal contracts, if they're currently selling cloud solutions to enterprise companies, and they're profitable and they're rapidly scaling up their book of business, that becomes interesting to us. That said, I think we're very reticent in overpaying for anything. I have a background in the ABL credit markets, and I'm very much around aligning sort of success together collaboratively, which you'll see, for example, the Campaign Nucleus transaction we're done. That's largely stock-based, and that it shares our philosophy of how we grow together. And then lastly, it's we look at regulatory compliance, of course, but cultural fit is something that I care a lot about. Do they align with the culture, the corporate culture that we want to build? And for us, the way we think about it, and that we're measuring, all of the folks on our team, as well as folks that would be engaging externally, would be based on a metric of integrity, a sense of urgency, a sense of ownership, a sense of innovation and curiosity. Because it's my belief that with those characteristics, rigorously measured against and ticked and tied, we can really build the kind of culture that I think would be needed to be nimble in this space. There's a lot of dollars floating around within the AI space, and there's a lot of opportunities, but only if we have a high sense of ethical standards, if we have a sense of personal integrity that will be imbued throughout the organization, as well as a sense of urgency, and ownership would be the only way that we could do this. Internally, the tools are advancing so quickly that without a sense of curiosity, we'd be left in the dust. And without a sense of innovation,
stand by 3 minutes on the extra channel for Archer Aviation. You're listening to the main channel for Phunware. Stand by.
With hospitality and given our history of working with hospitals and other clients of the sort of political sort of affiliations, we're eager to work with partners. So for those that are currently out there that are looking for a well-positioned highly, high integrity, highly motivated folks that move with lots of urgency and ownership reach out to us, because
Please tap the like
we're
button. It
taking
really
a hard
does
look at
help
ourselves,
share this
and
stream out.
we'd
Thank
love
you.
to work with you. And for organizations that have products that could use a capital partner and build something really great, please reach out to our partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Scott Buck with H.C. Wainwright. Your line is live.
Hi, good afternoon, guys. Stephen, very nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
I'm curious, can you help us understand what exactly you're getting with MyCanvas and Campaign Nucleus? Is there a real revenue generating business there, or is it more about people and tech?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that to the extent that I can. The answer is, and I'll have to couch it to a certain extent just because, it's a new partnership and we're still working our way around when to disclose, how to disclose, and what those approval processes are. With MyCanvas, absolutely. We've worked out, how do I put this? Campaign tools are largely developed, from the hyper local all the way up to the state, the federal, the national level, so on and so forth. Those are largely mature. The part that remains sort of largely segmented and fragmented is this hyper local canvassing. Put it this way: when I was a high school kid, I ran around and I did canvassing for different elected officials. And that process was largely still a cash transaction. That's the same process as this is today. Your local assembly person, it's a manual process. It's a messy process, and it is not a data-intensive process, right? It's the assembly person wants to get into
stand
office,
by for Archer Aviation.
They find 20 people.
I'll mute this stream when it starts.
They send 10 people there and 15 people there, and they pray for what comes back. You might leave some door knockers. You might get you might get rejected away. And in the way that we imagine it, we can have lots of highly relevant content on matters that matter to these individuals and or communities, and we're able to track it real time on a platform. And that's data to better understand your constituency and better figure out how to plan for rules and regulations and policies is a tremendous power for civic engagement and democratization of
the audio you can hear is me testing it before it starts.
And the value to that to interested parties, government or otherwise, is tremendous. We have
Good afternoon.
A robust pipeline.
Welcome to today's Archer Aviation third quarter 2024 financial results conference call. My name is Victoria, and I'll be your moderator today. All lines will be muted during the presentation portion of the call, with an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. If you would like to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 on your telephone keypad. I would now like to pass the conference over to your host, Eric Linsell, Archer's General Counsel. Thank you. You may proceed, Eric.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Archer's earnings call. This is Eric Linsell, Archer's General Counsel. On our call today, we'll be making forward-looking statements. Those forward-looking statements are based on assumptions as of today, and we undertake no obligation to update the statements as a result of new information or future events. These statements involve risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results to differ materially from those contemplated by the forward-looking statements. For more information about those risks and uncertainties, please refer to the risk factors in our SEC filings. We will also be discussing both GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures on today's call. A reconciliation of those GAAP to non-GAAP financial measures is included in our shareholder letter and earnings release from today. And with the legalese out of the way, I'll turn the call over to Adam. Adam?
Thanks, Eric. Since founding Archer, our mission has been constant: to pursue the most efficient path to making urban air mobility an everyday reality. Over the past 6 years, we have worked to establish the foundation to allow Archer to seamlessly transition from concept to commercialization. Now, regulators and industry leaders are moving increasingly in lockstep as we enter the commercialization phase of eVTOL. At Archer, we're honored and energized to be at the forefront of that shift. This momentum was unmistakable last month when the FAA Administrator Mike Whitaker signed the final Powered Lift SFAR, the Special Federal Aviation Regulation, alongside Archer's Chief Regulatory Affairs Officer and his predecessor, Captain Billy Nolan. In a few moments, you'll hear directly from Billy on the positive outcome of the SFAR for the entire eVTOL industry and our collective path forward. The SFAR is the key operational piece of the regulatory puzzle here in the U.S., giving us and the rest of the industry a clear path and structured framework for the safe, phased rollout of eVTOL. I'm grateful to Administrator Whitaker and his team at the FAA for championing America's leadership in advanced aviation technologies and for their continued partnership with Archer and our peers. Today, I'll lay out our expectations for how we envision our entry into service in both the U.S. and internationally over the next 18 months. The team and I also will share updates on the momentum we are experiencing across engineering and certification, advancements in scaling manufacturing, the deepening of our Stellantis partnership, and why we believe our capital position gives us a unique advantage as we round the corner towards entry into service. Our commercialization strategy is focused on markets where we can deploy hundreds of aircraft over time, backed by strong, top-down government support and the regulatory commitment required to make this vision a reality. Right now, we're seeing this potential in the U.S. and in key countries across the Middle East and Asia. Once we identify a market, our priority is to secure top-tier strategic partners, those who not only bring substantial passenger demand and potential for financing, but also have the influence and relationships to support our path to commercial service. I'll walk through our priority launch markets today and show how this playbook is driving our strategy. In these priority markets, we're set to begin deployment as soon as next year. Our goal is to gain real-world operational insights from the outset with a 3-step plan that puts Midnight into action. Step 1, execute piloted demonstration flights in market. Step 2, fly piloted market survey trips with Midnight carrying passengers on our first air taxi routes. Step 3, following certification, launch in-market commercial operations. We believe this pre-certification early deployment approach will help us build the operational expertise we need to develop each market and help ensure we're able to safely scale alongside the communities we serve as demand grows. In the U.S., we are focused on our initial launch markets, New York, Los Angeles, the San Francisco Bay Area, and Miami. We believe our airline partners will help us drive demand for the initial routes planned in these markets, like airport transfers, help us integrate into these busy hubs, and are key to helping secure aircraft financing, as with United's planned purchase of up to $1.5 billion of Midnight aircraft. As we work to complete the final phases of FAA certification, our engineering and operations teams are concentrating on advancing us to flight testing for credit, with both Archer and FAA pilots flying Midnight at our Salinas, California facility. Simultaneously, we plan to conduct public in-market piloted demonstration flights and market survey trips with our partners, introducing Midnight to the cities we plan to serve. We are seeing true commitment from our airline partners to this electric air taxi vision, investing both capital and leadership resources through teams embedded with us as we lay the groundwork for future scaled air taxi services across America. These early steps are essential for building safe, efficient operations for our future customers. Internationally, we've been drawing on the expertise of partners and customers with decades of aviation and regulatory experience across key markets. We're seeing strong interest from governments and partners eager to be among the first to demonstrate and commercialize electric air taxis. And we've grown our indicative order book to over $6 billion, which includes planned pre-delivery payments. Our certification and flight operation teams are working closely with regulators in our priority international launch markets to formulate and advance a strategy where we demonstrate piloted Midnight flights in market as soon as possible, then transition to commercial operations once both Archer and the jurisdictions are confident in the safety of our aircraft and operations. This approach opens the door for early international deployments, potentially even ahead of what we have planned for the U.S. The UAE continues to lead the way in this regard. We've established a consortium led by the Abu Dhabi Investment Office to launch commercial air taxi services in the UAE as early as Q4 2025. Together, we have made significant progress in establishing the regulatory pathway with the GCAA, as well as the infrastructure and flight operation plans necessary to enable our market entry. We are continuing to work closely with our key partners in the region on this initiative, such as Etihad and Falcon Aviation. This is all under the vision of the Abu Dhabi leadership. We're all working to rapidly advance what was contemplated by the framework agreement signed last year with the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Audio continues to demonstrate their commitment to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to accelerate our commercialization in the country, including support for early operations, critical infrastructure, and crucially, a regulatory pathway to launch commercially as early as the end of 2025. To bring this vision to life, our teams are coordinating with dozens of stakeholders across the Emirates on numerous work streams. We've used our in-house data platform, along with local insights, to map out air taxi network and design routes tailored to expected demand. We plan to launch in the nation's capital, Abu Dhabi, which covers roughly 85% of the UAE, with plans to expand our operations to connect with Dubai and other Emirates as we scale. Abu Dhabi has 5 commercial airports and approximately 50 certified helipads at major destinations, such as Emirates Palace, allowing us to enter the market by working directly with these entities to electrify and upgrade existing operational infrastructure instead of building new vertiports from scratch. We're partnering with Falcon Aviation, founded by the UAE royal family, and Etihad to recruit and train our first pilots, establish maintenance protocols, and schedule our initial regional piloted flight exhibitions, which we anticipate launching in 2025. I'm also very excited about today's announcement of our latest planned international market entry. In September, we signed an agreement with Japan Airlines and Sumitomo Corporation's newly formed JV, Soracle, to bring eVTOL to market in Japan, with plans to order up to $500 million of our Midnight aircraft. We've already received the initial pre-delivery payment against the agreement, underscoring the JV's commitment to this venture. We'll be working closely with Soracle and the Japan Civil Aviation Bureau to demonstrate Midnight in market as we prepare for commercial flights in some of the country's most congested cities, including Tokyo, where the journey by car from Narita Airport to the city center can take 2 hours or more. In addition to Japan, we also continue to advance our partnerships in India and Korea, and we will share more progress there in the coming quarters. As we move towards commercialization in each priority market, we'll work closely with our key public and private partners to collaboratively teach and learn eVTOL operations. By deploying aircraft in these early operations, we can gather essential insights and operational experience to scale responsibly. This measured approach allows us to refine our processes while fostering strong foundational relationships with the communities we plan to serve. We see this as more than just building an air mobility network. It's about creating a shared journey towards a cleaner, quieter, and more connected future. To support our commercialization plans, I'm proud to share that we are set to open our manufacturing facility in Covington, Georgia in the coming weeks. Our team has delivered this facility on time and on budget at a cost of approximately $65 million. At scale, this facility will be capable of producing up to 650 aircraft per year, setting a powerful foundation for us to scale our production alongside our operations. Now that we have substantially completed construction, we're on track to begin loading in the manufacturing line equipment by year-end, with our first line set to become operational early next year. From there, we plan to ramp up to a production rate of 2 aircraft per month by year's end. Stellantis continues to be a deeply committed partner on this journey to help us achieve scaled manufacturing. As I discussed last quarter, we have an agreement in principle with Stellantis for them to contribute up to an additional approximately $400 million of capital to help scale the manufacturing of our Midnight aircraft at this facility. Earlier this week, we announced that we are now seeking shareholder approval of that deal and aim to finalize it by the end of the year. The goal of the structure with Stellantis is to secure future capital for manufacturing growth without taking any unnecessary dilution of a large capital infusion today. We'll continue to manufacture our powertrain and a select number of test aircraft at our California low-rate production facilities, ensuring continuity for our R&D and test needs. We're confident this strategy will support a reliable and scalable production flow as we prepare for commercial operations. Our engineering and certification teams made significant strides this quarter, advancing FAA type certification and preparing for our first piloted flights with our Midnight aircraft. With the SFAR in place, our teams are fully engaged in the final phases of our certification program, collaborating closely with the FAA on a day-to-day basis to ensure compliance across all aspects of the program. With the type design mature and our high-volume manufacturing facility in Georgia coming online, we are ready to enter a period of tangible operations and scalable growth. Billy and Tom will outline the road ahead as we work to execute our path to certification and launch of commercial operations. The Department of Defense continues to actively engage the industry with increasing momentum. Our contracts with the DoD, which we understand to be the largest in the industry, have grown to a maximum value of $148 million. Just last quarter, we recently delivered our first Midnight aircraft to the United States Air Force under those contracts, a milestone that paved the way for exploring expanded defense applications ranging from contested logistics missions to critical medical rescue operations. Over the next 6 to 9 months, we anticipate meaningfully growing this area of our business as we showcase the strategic benefits of eVTOL to government partners, including other branches as well as our allies overseas. To spearhead these efforts, we are pleased to announce a recent new hire to the Archer team, the addition of Joe Pantalone as our head of advanced programs. A seasoned leader with nearly 30 years at Lockheed Martin, Joe brings invaluable expertise as a protege of Ken Rosen, one of the greatest aircraft engineering leaders of all time. Ken has over 50 years of experience in aviation, served as VP of Engineering at Sikorsky, where he was responsible for building the original Black Hawk in the 70s and subsequent variants. Finally, turning to our capital position. As I mentioned, we're fortunate to have strong backing of Stellantis, whose commitment to Archer has continued to expand. Their investment now stands at nearly $300 million to date, with an agreement in principle to commit up to nearly $400 million of additional capital to support our manufacturing ramp. This deep support allows us to execute our vision with greater speed and efficiency than would otherwise be possible. Combined with our cash reserves, which total over $500 million at the quarter end, Archer remains in a formidable liquidity position to aggressively pursue our entry into commercial service. As we close out this quarter, I couldn't be prouder of the significant strides our team has made in laying the foundation for our future. We have flown hundreds of test flights with Midnight year to date, demonstrating our commitment to rigorous testing and validation. Our piloted Midnight aircraft is nearing readiness for flight. Our high-volume manufacturing facility in Georgia is set to open, and we are seeing increasingly clear regulatory pathways both domestically and internationally. Additionally, our growing network of strategic partners is helping pave the way for our vision. And with that, I will turn it over to Billy Nolen.
Thanks, Adam. This type of progress is what drew me to Archer. The opportunity to work with a team so dedicated to making this vision a reality is incredibly motivating. Every day, I had an opportunity to see firsthand the passion and drive that fuels our progress. During my tenure as FAA administrator, we set forth an ambitious vision to commercialize eVTOL in American cities by 2025, with a goal to reach meaningful scale by the LA Olympics in 2028. It was a privilege to stand alongside my successor, Mike Whitaker, as he signed into law the final powered lift SFAR, paving the way for the commercial launch of electric air taxis in the United States. This moment was especially gratifying as we worked tirelessly during my time at the FAA to ensure that strategic innovations like this were championed by the FAA, maintaining America's role as the global leader in aviation. I want to commend the entire FAA team for their exceptional work in establishing these new rules on schedule and at record speed. This achievement underscores the FAA's dedication to safely bringing these aircraft to market through a collaborative approach with the industry. For instance, we developed the Powered Lift SFAR to address unique aspects of eVTOL technology, including pilot training and urban airspace integration. This effort required coordination across multiple agencies, culminating in a regulatory framework that ensures the safe integration of eVTOL operations into our national airspace. I also want to emphasize the broader significance of this achievement. The FAA's efforts to create a new aircraft category, for the first time in 80 years, reflects a historic moment, not just for Archer, but for the future of urban mobility globally. It is a demonstration of how we as a nation can lead in pioneering technology that has the potential to revolutionize how people live and move in urban spaces. We've successfully shown that when government and industry work hand in hand, we can advance innovation, set global standards, and keep the U.S. at the forefront of aerospace development. Now, to help us put this into perspective for our certification journey, I want to hand it over to Tom. Tom will walk us through how the SFAR and our ongoing partnership with the FAA have allowed us to make substantial progress toward type certification and how each phase of the FAA's process aligns with our strategy of bringing Midnight to market. Tom, over to you.
Thanks, Billy. With the clarity we now have following the final release of the Powered Lift SFAR, as well as the compliance planning progress we have made with the FAA since our airworthiness
Welcome to everybody from the main channel. Just joining you now here on Archer Aviation on the Extra channel.
In a more quantifiable manner.
Please tap the like button.
We believe the best way to do so is by comparing Midnight's certification
members
progress
only chat.
to the FAA's four phases that lead up to type certification, as defined in the FAA's model of the type certification process in Order 8110-4C. The first phase in the FAA's type certification process is called conceptual design, where the FAA is familiarized with the aircraft design and early discussions are held, culminating in an application for type certification. As you know, we finished this phase several years ago. The second phase of the FAA's process is requirements definition, which is where the FAA sets the airworthiness criteria or certification basis, essentially the safety requirements for the aircraft. We formally finished this phase this past spring when the FAA published our final airworthiness criteria in the Federal Register. As you know, we are one of only 2 companies in the world that have reached that milestone with the FAA. The third phase is called compliance planning, where the means and methods of compliance are set and documented in issue papers, detailed design standards, and certification plans. These documents set the detailed requirements that will be used to show that the aircraft complies with the rules in the airworthiness criteria. Archer has completed nearly all of this work, and the FAA has now approved or accepted the substantial majority of the material we've submitted. It is worth noting that with respect to Phase 3, the industry has one main open industry issue paper relating to Rule 2105G in the airworthiness criteria, which will define how all eVTOL aircraft must handle controlled emergency landing. This is not unique to Archer, as this issue paper will apply to all eVTOL applicants working towards a powered lift type certification. With the publication of the operating rules in the SFAR, the FAA is now able to finalize the 2105G requirements.
Testing sound.
Based on discussions with the FAA, we believe that our existing design will be compliant, so we don't anticipate needing any design changes to address this. We expect to close this topic with the FAA in the near future. The fourth and final phase leading up to type certification is called implementation. This phase is where we perform the tests and analyses identified in Phase 3 and provide the data to the FAA for them to verify and make compliance findings. Once the FAA has completed all compliance findings in this phase, they issue the type certificate. At this point, we have FAA approval for 12% of the total compliance verification documents in this final phase before type certification, with much of that progress attributed to our work in materials and process, software, avionics, and electrical systems. In parallel with our FAA certification efforts, we are actively working with several international regulators towards bringing our aircraft to market outside of the United States, including with the GCAA in the UAE, as Adam mentioned earlier. We also continue to make great progress in our aircraft flight testing efforts. Back in August, we reached our year-end goal of flying over 400 times, which was 4 months ahead of schedule, and we continued to fly Midnight on a regular basis. We've gained a lot of key learnings from our flight test program, including valuable insights into how our in-house developed powertrain performs on the aircraft. For the past year, we have been flying our A-sample electric engines, and battery packs on Midnight. A-sample is an automotive term for early hardware that is functional but has limitations and is usually produced with more manual processes. We now have hundreds of flights and thousands of hours of lab and ground testing on this hardware. Data gathered through this testing informed the design refinements that we have incorporated into our B-sample powertrain hardware. B-sample means the components are fully functional and design representative, but not necessarily produced on the final production lines and tooling. In the B-sample electric engines, we improved the rotor design to use an innovative magnet retention and assembly design that supports both our maximum performance requirements and is optimized for manufacturability.
Well, having a great day.
We
I always
also
forget you in the
implemented
background
forged
watching.
aluminum housings instead of housings machined from a billet to align to the material properties and manufacturing processes that will be used in mass production. In our B-sample battery packs, we updated our battery management hardware and software to the type design that we are working to certify, and made some design refinements to the thermoplastic enclosure for improved manufacturability. We made the conscious decision to wait to begin our piloted test flights for this B-sample hardware, because we believe this will allow us to move faster during the flight test for credit phase. I want to make it clear that we are focused on building and testing our piloted type design aircraft. This is the aircraft we are working to certify and ramp into early production next year. It is not merely a developmental prototype. These aircraft will only be capable of being flown with a pilot on board, as they are using the hardware and software that we are working to certify. With the type design now matured, it's ideal timing to bring up our factory in Georgia. Our plan is to start building aircraft in that facility in January, with the initial units planned to be used for piloted demonstration and market survey flights with passengers next year. We already have parts on order for the aircraft we plan to produce in 2025, and our goal is to exit 2025 at a production rate of 2 aircraft per month in Georgia, with the plan to ramp beyond that in 2026. And with that, I'll turn it over to Priya.
Thanks, Tom. Good afternoon, everyone. As you may remember, Mark Messler is currently on temporary medical leave. On behalf of the entire team, I want to take a moment to extend our best wishes to him for a smooth recovery. Mark's leadership and guidance has been invaluable to the organization, and we wish him well. During this time, I have the privilege of stepping in as Archer's interim CFO. I have worked with Mark for over 10 years across various public companies and have now been with Archer for over 2 years leading the corporate finance team. In today's call, I will go over our liquidity profile, our financial results for Q3 24, our estimates for Q4 24, and a high-level framework for understanding our 2025 spend. With regards to liquidity, we continue to be one of the best capitalized companies in the industry. At the end of Q3 24, Archer had $501.7 million of cash and cash equivalents on the balance sheet. This puts us at the strongest cash position we have been at over the last 18 months. And this doesn't include any of the up to $400 million of additional capital Stellantis has agreed in principle to commit to help scale the manufacturing of our Midnight aircraft. As you may have seen us announce earlier this week, we are now seeking shareholder approval of that deal so we can finalize the commitment. Furthermore, we have nearly completed the build-out of our large-scale manufacturing facility that will support our production ramp for years to come, all of which has been financed through highly favorable terms. As we look ahead towards the manufacturing and commercial operations ramp we expect next year, we feel very confident that we will have access to sufficient capital to deliver. With regards to our spending this quarter, we continue to invest in the development, certification and test of our Midnight aircraft, and in the ramp-up of our manufacturing and testing capabilities as we build additional Midnight aircraft and their associated powertrains. As a result, our non-GAAP operating expenses for Q3 24 were $96.8 million, that is within our guided range of $90 to $100 million, and relatively flat quarter over quarter. Our total operating expenses on a GAAP basis for Q3 24 were $122.1 million, which is also relatively flat to the prior quarter. Our GAAP operating expenses included approximately $25.3 million of non-cash or one-time expenses, primarily driven by the $21.4 million of stock-based compensation. Within the $96.8 million of non-GAAP operating expenses, we incurred approximately $19 million of non-recurring engineering and material costs with our suppliers during the quarter, as we continue to invest in the maturation of our supply chain for Midnight and procure parts for the manufacture of our Midnight aircraft. As we look ahead to Q4 '24, we anticipate total non-GAAP operating expenses of $95 to $110 million. This range represents an uptick in spending as we plan for an increase in our non-recurring engineering costs with our suppliers to enable our manufacturing ramp, as well as an increase in labor and materials spend tied to our planned ramp of manufacturing activity. As we finalize our contract manufacturing arrangement with Stellantis going into 2025, we expect the majority of these manufacturing labor and CapEx costs to be covered under that construct for the foreseeable future. For 2025, I'll discuss the framework for how you should think about our spend. Our spend for 2025 aligns to 5 buckets. First, our core expenses for engineering and SG&A. Second, supplier non-recurring engineering costs and Archer CapEx. Third, labor costs for manufacturing. Fourth, direct material cost with our suppliers to support our aircraft builds. And lastly, the commercial flight operations and MRO costs necessary to support our commercialization efforts. In the first bucket, our core run rate expenses for engineering and SG&A on a non-GAAP basis has been in the range of $75 to $80 million per quarter this year, and we expect this core spend rate to be flat to down next year. On the second bucket, we expect the spend on supplier non-recurring engineering costs and Archer CapEx to be down in 2025, since in 2024 we have invested heavily in this area. As mentioned earlier, with respect to the third bucket, we are working to finalize
Please, if you
our
could, tap the like button. We'll share this out, get the word out to more people about Archer Aviation. Thank you very much.
The majority of our labor and additional CapEx costs for producing aircraft in 2025. While in our fourth bucket, we anticipate higher direct material spend with our suppliers as we plan to build more aircraft next year, our goal is to finance that material spend through various mechanisms. Our goal is to enter into customer arrangements that will offset some, if not all, of these costs over time. In the last bucket, as we engage in commercial deployments, we expect the support needed for flight operations, MRO, and market development efforts to also be largely covered by customer arrangements. In summary, we continue to be focused on finding the most efficient path to achieving a sustainable business model, and we are well positioned financially to execute against our commercial launch plans. And with that, operator, we can now open the line for questions.
Of course. We will now begin the question and answer session. In the interest of time, we ask that everyone limit themselves to one question and then one follow-up question. If you would like to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 on your telephone keypad. If for any reason you'd like to remove that question, please press star followed by 2. Again, to ask a question, press star 1. As a reminder, if you are using a speakerphone, please remember to pick up your handset before asking a question. We will pause here briefly as questions are registered. Our first question comes from the line of Andres Sheppard with Cantor Fitzgerald. Gerald, your line is now open.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Anand on behalf of Andres. Congrats on the quarter and thanks for taking our questions. So it seems that some of your peers are focusing more on building a prototype aircraft while you're focusing more on building a conforming aircraft. I was wondering if you could describe what you see as the key advantages of your strategy here and elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Tom. Happy to answer. So I think this is really a reflection of our strategy from the very beginning to design an aircraft that's optimized for certification and manufacturing and take a really methodical step-by-step approach to bring that aircraft to market. And so the aircraft that we're building right now are the aircraft we're planning to test with the FAA for credit. And then it's that same design, the type design, that we're planning to ramp into production next year to use for early commercial operations. So again, just like we made the pragmatic decisions to not vertically integrate everywhere and focus on something that we think is pragmatic and achievable, you're just seeing that same strategy flow through to the entire business.
Gotcha. Appreciate the color. And with regards to the recent Japan announcement, I was wondering if you're able to give us a little bit more of a timeline as to when you expect to begin deliveries in the area.
This is Adam. Thanks for the question. So if you go back to the chart that we put out last quarter, where you can start to see the manufacturing volumes, you can get a sense for how the production may ramp. So you'll see, 10 aircraft in 2025, and then it ramps up from there. So there are opportunities for early deployment, and we've talked a lot about the UAE, where some aircraft will go. We will obviously use some aircraft in our test capacities, and then we also think there's some opportunities to deploy some aircraft even with some of the Western customers as well. So Japan is a really great opportunity, and we are starting to really work hard to develop all the infrastructure and pathway to launch there. And so as that starts to mature, we will provide more detailed information.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. And lastly, as you just mentioned, with the UAE, if you could remind us your plans on how you plan to commercialize there and how you plan to enter this market and how you see it ramping up.
So as we always say, our goal has been to find the most efficient path to commercialization. And so that really means stabilizing the final design, which we've done, and building that aircraft and testing it, which we're doing. And then once we do all that, safely deploy it. And if you look at the UAE, we have a lot of really good relationships there. So Mubadala, the sovereign wealth fund of Abu Dhabi, is a longtime investor in Archer. We've engaged the entire Abu Dhabi ecosystem, and that's largely been coordinated through the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. And that consortium that's been put together includes some of our partners like Etihad and Falcon Aviation. So the regulatory pathway has now become much more clear. That's enabled us to be able to launch as soon as fourth quarter next year. And so I'll turn it over to Tom to walk through some of the process, but hopefully that gives you a sense for all the different parts that are coming together. Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think it's, again, the same strategy of taking a very pragmatic approach to launching the business. And so our strategy in UAE is to partner with great operators out there. It's to leverage existing infrastructure. It's to leverage a lot of the same data that we're already generating for the FAA to support the aircraft entry into service there. So just clicking into some details there, with respect to the aircraft certification, we're leveraging the same plan, same data that we're already working to develop. I just spent a week in the UAE with my CERT team, and we worked through a lot of the details on that piece. But in other trips, I've flown on helicopters operated by Falcon Aviation, our operating partner out there. And so another example is we don't have to build our own AOC. We can just fly on Falcons. And, this is a company that was founded by the royal family out there. So super experienced group. And those flights are all using existing infrastructure. So we don't need to take the risk, expense, and time to stand that up. So I think what you should look for us for next year is starting to operate, initial flights out in the UAE and making step-by-step progress towards commercial service there.
Got it. Wonderful. Appreciate the caller, and congrats again on the quarter. I'll pass it on.
Thank you for your questions. Our next question comes from the line of Edison Yu with Deutsche Bank. Your line is now open.
Great. Thank you for taking our questions as always. First off, do we have any updated timing or thinking on conducting the first piloted flight?
Hey, Edison, this is Tom. Well, I just want to make it clear that we're working towards our first piloted flight of our type design aircraft. So this is the same aircraft that we're talking about doing the certification testing with the FAA and ramping up production next year for early commercial launch in the UAE and other places. And I think we're the only ones in the industry that are really working on that. I don't want to give a specific timeline for the first piloted flight, as this is really a safety decision for us. So I don't want to put undue pressure on the team. But what I can say is that we're getting really close to that milestone.
Understood. And then to your point on this is the production version. This is the real version. And I just want to confirm that this is still capable of carrying the payload, the intended payload, the distance, all the performance metrics. Those are you're reiterating all those things for this aircraft.
Correct. So this is the aircraft design that we're planning to take into production into commercial launch. Pilot plus 4 passengers.
Understood. And just last thing on I know you mentioned the pre-delivery payment for the new Japan order. Do we have a sense on how big that amount is? I realize you maybe can't provide exact numbers, but maybe relative to other ones.
Hey, Edison, this is Adam. So we have collected PDPs from several of our customers. We haven't broken that out in detail. The PDP from the joint venture from Japan Airlines and Sumitomo, the first payment was $1 million, and we haven't broken out all the additional payments going forward.
Great. Congrats. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Our next question comes from the line of Savi Syth with Raymond James. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. Priya, if I might follow up on the helpful comments that you provided for us to think through 2025. Am I to understand your comments around buckets 3 through 5 are that you have cash coming in to cover those costs? And I know with the labor cost, manufacturing cost, that's Stellantis financing. I was curious if the other financing comes with an equity component or debt component, or how we should think about that. And then just following up on the Stellantis as well, just given the news over there, I was kind of curious as to if what their commitment is with this contract manufacturing agreement.
Thanks, Savi, for the question. I think I'll lead off with answering a question specific to how we're thinking about financing for materials. But let me just again maybe reiterate the framework. So for 2025, right, as we said, we're looking at having essentially the core expenses for engineering and SG&A. And as we said, we're going to target keeping that flat to down for next year. And we'll talk about the Stellantis relationship for labor and CapEx manufacturing. But specifically for the materials portion, our goal is to finance that through the traditional financing mechanisms, working capital, inventory financing. And we're in conversations with multiple entities to see what's the best, most favorable terms for us. And I think with regards to the Stellantis relationship, as you've seen, we're going after the shareholder approval right now, and we can follow up later on the detailed terms of what that would look like.
Got it. And then if I might, on the certification aircraft, Tom, just it was very helpful to understand kind of what you were waiting for on going forward with that. Just how much of that is built in terms of it? It sounds like if you're getting very close, that it's fairly built. But I was kind of curious, how much of that has been built, and as you've built the 2 Midnights now, any kind of learnings on how you can kind of scale production?
Yeah, absolutely. So the aircraft, the first type design aircraft that we're getting ready to fly, that aircraft is almost complete. So we're in the system integration testing phase, basically the last step that we'll do before we send the aircraft to flight test. So still some work to do there, but again, getting really close. In terms of learnings on manufacturing, again, the broader context here is we are, with that aircraft and the other two test aircraft that are in production right now, learning all the lessons on the exact design we plan to certify. And so there have been lots of lessons learned, lots of that has then informed how we're laying out the initial line in Georgia. And then, beyond that, in parallel, there's extensive lab testing going on of all of the hardware. So I mentioned some of the powertrain learnings that we've gotten from flight test and lab test, basically taking all that data together, using that to develop the manufacturing plans that we're going to start executing against next year.
Hey, Sabi, this is Adam.
Appreciate it.
The aircraft that we're building that Tom mentioned are aircraft that will not only just be piloted, but because they're production aircraft, they will also ultimately carry other people as well. And so the safety standard of what we're doing is at the very highest level. So I know other groups are producing, or I'll call it rapidly producing, still prototype aircraft that looks like, they don't carry people, but these are piloted aircraft that will carry people. So the safety standard here is very high, and we're making sure that, we're dotting every single I and crossing every single T because, we will be going to market with these aircraft.
Understood. It's all helpful color. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Our next question comes from the line of Bill Peterson with JP Morgan. Your line is now open.
Hi, this is Mahima Kakani on for Bill. It was nice to see that the FAA has begun to accept and approve some of your certification plans. Do you have a sense of kind of the pace and the cadence of which the FAA will continue to do this over the next couple of quarters? Do you have any expectation around when they'll accept 100% of your compliance verification plans?
Yep. So I think the right way to answer that is to point you back at the chart that we put in our shareholder letter, which lays out the 4 phases that the FAA defined leading up to type certification. So, the first 2 were finished when our airworthiness criteria was published earlier this year. And so what we've been able to do over the last, 4 months or so, 4 to 6 months, is essentially go and finalize a bunch of the means and methods of compliance. And so these are things like the MOCs, the detailed design standards, the certification plans that all enable the 4-credit test work. And then the other thing we showed for the first time is within that kind of final phase where we're showing the data and then the FAA uses that to verify and actually find compliance. We've completed, or the FAA, I should say, has approved about 12% of that total sort of documentation package. And so the one remaining open item that we highlighted is this topic around emergency landing. And that's a topic that the FAA is finalizing for the entire industry. So it's a little bit in the weeds, but there's basically one issue paper on that topic for the industry. And now that the SFAR is out and we know the operational context, the FAA is working to finalize means and methods of compliance around that topic. And that topic is related to things in a handful of cert plans. And so it's basically those things that are still open at this point. As I mentioned earlier, we don't see any risk today on any of that, and it's much more of kind of an administrative cleanup process, just like you saw on the certification basis. So what I think you should be expecting from us is to see an increase in that compliance finding final phase as we step towards the TC.
Mahima, this is Adam. Just reiterating one of the points Tom made during the prepared remarks. The 2105G issue paper is not unique to Archer. That is an industry-wide issue paper. And then when you look at the kind of phase 4 implementation phase, the 12% is actually quite advanced. And it's hard to understand how all the different groups do it, but we may actually end up be leading the industry in terms of certification progress, because that is a pretty high number, especially compared to the way some of the other groups break it out.
Okay, thank you both. That's really helpful color. For our second question, I appreciate that you can't really touch on specific timing of piloted flight in the UAE, but do you have a sense of how many aircraft you'll send there for testing, and then potentially how long that could take before entry into service?
Yeah, well, we have a plan to be in commercial service in the UAE before the end of next year. And it's a challenging plan, but it's one that we are executing against and is certainly doable. The aircraft that we are starting to produce in Georgia in the coming months are the aircraft that we will be deploying to the UAE. Adam and the team gave some, general guidance on aircraft production over the next couple of years. So the way to think about it is we're currently producing, the remaining conforming aircraft we'll use for FAA flight testing, then also this additional batch of aircraft, same design, but intended to be deployed for these early commercial operations, whether they be in the UAE or other places.
And I think what's compelling is we have a lot of support from the GCAA, which is the local regulator in the UAE. These aircraft will be piloted from day one, so I think it actually makes some of the certification process a bit more clear, where we're not switching back and forth from different types of aircraft. And so we have a pretty straight line in how to get there, and now we have to go do the hard work to get it done.
Okay, thanks so much. I'll hop back in the queue.
Thank you for your questions. Our next question comes from the line of Josh Sullivan with the Benchmark Company. Your line is now open.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. Just looking at the order this morning, as well as others that might be out there. You've had a couple of these size orders at this point, and I know you referenced the chart there from last quarter as far as how you can ramp. But I assume to order 100 aircraft or so, there's some pricing advantage versus just a single unit buy. Are customers ordering rights to production slots or specific deliveries in batches? Just generally trying to get a feel for how the market for orders is shaping up in these deals.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. This is Adam. So when we engage with customers from around the world, I think it's become increasingly clear that Archer is one of, if not, the company that's going to get to market, early or first. And so we have had great success in finding really great strategic partners all around the globe in some of the biggest countries, biggest cities, and so with some of the best, really companies out there. And so that has enabled us to sort of pick and choose the different groups. I think what will be interesting in terms of the rollout is a lot of the customers want access to the aircraft as soon as possible, because it's not really for them immediately about revenue generation or about flying the aircraft with passengers. It's about learning how to deploy these aircraft. So let's say, for example, you wanted to go deploy a fleet of aircraft at Newark Liberty International in the U.S. All of a sudden, you have to go start learning all the operational capabilities. You have to learn how charging is going to work, how maintenance is going to work, get the pilots involved. So we've seen a lot of interest from pretty much all of the customers around the world want aircraft as early as possible. And so what we've done is we've said, with the new customers we're talking to, we said we would like there to be pre-delivery payments early, meaning there's some dollar commitment to show how serious they are, non-refundable pre-delivery payments. Second is we'll start to look at, delivering aircraft, doing in-market demonstration flights, followed by market survey flights, and then ultimately launching there. And so as we roll that process out all over the world, you'll start to see, a handful of aircraft in each of these countries, each of these cities, and then ultimately, passengers flying on those for market survey flights, and then ultimately the launch there. So hopefully that gives you a sense for how this is starting to shape out. I think as it relates specifically to Japan, Japan is a great market. It's a big market, has the potential for at least 100 aircraft. If you look at some of the trips from, the airport to city center, we're talking about, very long, rides. And so we're very excited about the Japan order, but there are many like that we've engaged with that are to come.
Got it. And then maybe just as you look at the SFAR, do you or your partners have an early sense just of the life cycle of, pilot training or just acquisition? Any early thoughts there?
Well, I would say in general on the SFAR, we were super pleased with the outcome. It was honestly better than what we thought it was going to be. And, the main things in there we were paying attention to were pilot training, like you mentioned. And so it was great to see they added the flexibility to be able to leverage simulators for big chunks of training, which is, what we had been planning and we think is the right thing to do. In addition to rules around energy reserves, which came out in a better than we expected, in a way that supports our intended commercial operations. So there's a lot of work to do with the individual operators in the individual countries, as that SFAR is just a domestic document, but really positive sign, I would say, for the whole industry.
Great. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for your question. Our next question comes from the line of David Zazula with Barclays. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for getting me in. Tom, just following up on that, I know you said the reserve requirement within the SFAR came in better than expected. I guess specifically, can you talk to any restriction that you would have on operations as a result of that reserve requirement, within the context of, the Urban Air Mobility Mission Set?
Yep, absolutely. So the FAA in the SFAR prescribed methods for defining the amount of energy we need to keep on the airplane. And so just the first principles effect there is they're defining how much, fuel, if you will, or energy needs to be left in the battery at the end of the flight. So that sets sort of maximum, range missions. So they did that in two ways. The first was as a base position, essentially aligning with the way helicopters are flown today. So keeping like a minimum 20-minute endurance of energy. And so for our aircraft, with that requirement, we're able to satisfy essentially all of the commercial missions that we're interested in flying, essentially all of the markets we're looking at today. But then the FAA went a step further and added provisions for alternate essentially means of meeting a similar safety standard. So for example, if we wanted to fly a long-range mission that perhaps couldn't give us 20 minutes of reserve endurance, we can propose ways to mitigate that by having landing sites that are along the way to essentially give us backup options. So when I talked about better than expected, it's things like that the FAA worked in, which are super practical, but maintain a high level of safety, but give the flexibility for this early industry to kind of take hold and learn and grow.
That's really good color. I don't know if Billy is taking questions, but he did mention in the prepared remarks, what had been worked out as far as urban airspace integration. There's only 6 minutes left in the call, so I'm sure we don't have any time to go into detail, but maybe can we get a preview of what you're thinking the challenges are for urban airspace integration and some ways you're working with the FAA to try to solve those challenges?
Yeah, hey, David. Unfortunately, Billy's traveling. He's not actually on the Q&A portion today. Why don't you, give us a call and we can go into to some of that.
Okay, super helpful. Thanks for the back in the queue.
Thank you for your question. Our next question comes from the line of Amit Dayal with H.C. Wainwright. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see, a lot of these de-risking steps coming to fruition. It looks like the UAE commercialization strategy seems, nicely mapped. How does that compare for your plans for the U.S. market? You mentioned, a few cities here that you're targeting. How much of the burden financially and operationally will you need to sort of take on to bring some of these sites and cities into, readiness, I guess, to begin operations in the U.S.?
Hey, this is Adam. So when we're looking at deploying the fleet that we're building, there's a couple of different ways that we're thinking about it. The first is looking at the UAE, which we've talked a lot about, and I think there's a great pathway to go do that, and there's a pathway to do that to generate revenue. And so I don't think there will be necessarily a financial burden because we're selling aircraft. The other side is there's a lot of existing infrastructure that's already been created there. So there are existing helipads, many of them, dozens of them that exist within Abu Dhabi. And so there was existing operators, existing pilots, existing routes. And so there's a lot that we are going to be partnering with to allow us to launch right away and to get off the ground with minimal additional investment. In the U.S., as it relates to bringing aircraft to some of our early customers as well, the first use case is really all about learning about the aircraft and learning how to deploy and how to scale. So, for example, you can't just go drop a fleet of aircraft off at Newark Liberty International and say, thank you, see you later. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into that. Where is the charging infrastructure going to go? How are the pilots going to interact with this? How is the airport itself going to work? Where is parking going to be? And so a lot of the customers want to engage early to try to stand up the operations. And that may be a year or multi-year process to do that. Because we have many customers all over the world, there's an opportunity to really start engaging these different groups that want early access. None of that really requires a heavy capital investment to do that. So I do believe there's an opportunity to generate revenue, potentially even generate positive cash flow with minimal investment that needs to go into the early operations.
Understood. Thank you for that color, Adam. Yeah, that's all I have. I'll take my other questions offline. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your questions. At this time, I would now like to pass the conference back to Adam Goldstein, founder and CEO of Archer, for his closing remarks.
Thank you very much for listening to our quarterly call. It was another great quarter. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you very much,
That
guys.
concludes today's call. Thank you for your participation and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining me tonight for Archer Aviation. That's it from me. This is the Extra channel. Please tap the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Help promote this this news tonight about Archer Aviation. I'm going to end the stream now. At the moment, we're uploading the FOMC report and Phunware to our main channel, and in a short while, this live stream will be enhanced and uploaded as its own video here on the Extra channel. Thank you very much indeed. I'll see you back in the morning, but that's it from me. Until next time, thank you very much, Vaz, for requesting this tonight. It was much more successful than I thought it would be. Thank you for your $10 super chat as well. That's very kind of you. And see you all back in the morning. Until then, good night.